FD signifier just went crazy, crashed out, and unleashed on Tariq Nasheed. Now, watching this video, I was torn because on one hand, I'm African. So for clear and obvious reasons, you could see why I would be rooting in favor of FD signifiers and Cam James' ideology. But then on the other hand, I'm friends with Tariq Nasheed, if y'all even think that's possible. FD made some pretty strong declarations during this video. He will label and declare Tariq Nasheed's group, FBA, as white supremacist and blackface. He would even make a comparison between FBA and Trump's MAGA and FBA and Nick Fuentes' America's First, claiming they're one of the same. They're the same group of people, just different skin tones. Tariq Nasheed has said that FBA is not a group, is actually a description for a group of people, you know, who share the same lineage. That's his explanation for it. Now, I'll be real, I feel like you kind of have to say it's not a group, because once you start labeling something a group, once you start saying this is a group, well, a group has to have a leader. And then once you identify yourself as the leader, you're now responsible for that group. So let's just say somebody who identifies as FBA goes out and do something very horrible, right? Now the federal government is looking at Tariq Nasheed and looking at the group now and trying to put, you know, identifiers on it. So it's very smart to say it's not a group. Now, FD would also go in on Tariq Nasheed, claiming that Tariq Nasheed is a fraud and a grifter, and he doesn't like him and never liked him.
But no, I don't have any Jamaican, Nigerian, Caribbean, or African direct descents.
Said earlier, here's the official FBA website. I told y'all he built this, and at the bottom it says Foundational Black Americans. Let's throw that joint in the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office site, and boom. That's your boy, right? Just in case you needed more proof, the earliest recorded mention of the site's URL happened on October 7th of 2020, when he was trying to sell y'all FBA mini flags. The earliest mention of the term is hard to pinpoint, but he was using it on another one of his sites in 2019. Here's proof of him creating the term in the first place, claiming he adapted it from Dr. Claude Anderson's Native Black Americans term. The FBA movement started as Tangibles 2020 in the lead up to the 2020 election.
Man, we don't need to be on no AD.
So that's the first thing, because people be like, FBA is a lineage. And it's like, if you're telling me y'all made up a new term, I get you, but it was made by King Grifter. Let's start that out first. This video is now top 10 reasons I don't FBA ADOS in no particular order. Number one is everything FBA is as a record label, a crew, a clique, and a crew. Everything that's ever been done by Tariq Nasheed is awful, just because he's involved with it. I don't care if Tariq Nasheed saved 2 babies from a burning building. Like, I'm happy those babies are alive, but it would have been better if he sacrificed himself in the process. Okay? Tariq Nasheed is King Grifter. I've talked about him a long time ago. I'm gonna have to come back to it now. But he's just been like an awful dude for years at this point. And he was connected to another group, ADOS, which started out as something that a lot of people seemed cool with, but over time eventually showed his ass. And we'll talk about that later. So he created this FBA concept. And FBA is basically a group of online weirdos. You can call it a lineage if you want. That's fine. Understand, other people that are connected to your lineage are a group of online weirdos.
Whatever FD and Tariq got going on is clearly personal. That being said, you should have sacrificed yourself in the process. Clearly, this is beyond the scope of I'm just critiquing somebody I watched online. They got some personal issues going on here. Now, objectively speaking, Tariq Nasheed has done something positive. He's done Hidden Colors. Hidden Colors, before the internet, had no negative reviews. Like, Hidden Colors went triple platinum in the black community. My question is, with Tariq Nasheed's current messaging, does that take away from Hidden Colors? Because Hidden Colors, for the most part, is a Pan-African film. It's acknowledging we all started here, but we're at all ends of the globes, and it's important to connect with the diaspora. Like, that's what Hidden Colors was about, right? Where Tariq Nasheed goes and he shows, yo, Africans exist here, Africans exist here, Africans exist somewhere in Asia, right? We're all over the planet, and it's important to connect with our people. But Tariq Nasheed currently, you can say, is an isolationist. So if you're an isolationist, does that interfere with how Hidden Colors is gonna age to his audience? But FD will blankly call the FBA dudes weirdos. Now, I'm very hesitant, even though you can look at the online activity and probably come to that conclusion, I'm very hesitant to label and describe a group of people based on a niche community online. Because what FD is talking about, he's talking about the dudes who are on Twitter, where they're under the comment section of every immigrant calling us racial slurs, right? Calling us tethers, right? The tether hairline, right? Now, they will say that tether is an actual description of an immigrant who come here to cosplay as a Black American. That's what they will say. But then they say, tether hairline. Oh, tether babble. Tether this, tether that, right? Like you wouldn't say tether hairline if it was not a racial slur, right? If it was a description for somebody who come here and cosplay as a Black American, then like you would use it as it's defined. The minute you start to use it outside of the actual definition and description, it then becomes a racial slur because you're using it to dehumanize somebody based on what? Like their lineage or the country they're from. And it's wrong, right? It's wrong. But I don't know how many, FBA members or people who identify as FBAs, I don't know how many of them truly identify with the online activity.
They're like black 4chaners, black Reddit energy, a bunch of white nationalists and blackface. You say they ain't just online, I'll take your word for it. I've never encountered these niggas in the wild. Now, they may flow into different versions of hotepery, which has always been here, but the people that like brand themselves with ADOS are just a lot of online weirdos. So,
ADOS, man, we need to be banned.
2020.
Let's listen to that one more time.
2020 election.
Man, we don't need to be on no ADOS, man. We need to be Pan-African. That's what Pan-Africanism is. Us fight for everybody else to come over here and get some of the resources that we've helped accumulate for them, and then they turn around and say, okay, thank you, Wakata, and I'm about to go work with these white people.
Back then, Tariq was in
There's so much to unpack there. Tragedy. Let's first stillman where some of this comes from and talk about that term, Akata. A term I literally, my entire life, I just told y'all I grew up around Nigerians. I have never heard that term my entire life, in real life. I've never heard that term my entire life. I am 43 years old. I grew up around Nigerians. I hung with Africans, dated the baddest Sierra Leonean chick at my school, at Clark. Never got hate from Africans in any form or fashion.
But the problem with this is FD is undermining the experiences of a large group of people, right? If a large group is telling you, hey, we experienced this at the hands of these group of people, then it will be silly to say, no, you didn't, because my experiences were positive. If their experiences were not positive, then that's fair, right? They have a right to express, hey, I was called a kata, hey, I was called this. They have a right to express it. But what I do think is often done is they will want their experience to be acknowledged, right? FBA will say, hey, this happened to me. These immigrants be undermining us. They're pompous. They treat us like this. And that's fair, right? That's the lived experience. But then an immigrant will say, hey, I was called, like African booty scratcher. Hey, I was called this growing up. Hey, I was called this growing up. Hey, y'all was really mean to me for being African. Hey, y'all did this. And then the FBA will say, man, stop it, bro. Man, bro, stop lying, bro. Man, what you mean, bro? What, so you got teased as a kid? That's it? Nah, man, all right, bro. And it's like, damn, okay, so if we're able to acknowledge your lived experience, you're incapable of acknowledging their lived experience? I've always said, Africans who are anti-Black exist. Jamaicans who are anti-Black exist. Immigrants who are anti-Black exist. But there are also, right, Black Americans who were born and raised here who are also anti-Black. But somehow, I think FBA is holding all immigrants for the actions and the sins of a specific group, of a very small group of people who are anti-Black. And it's like, hold on, if we held all native-born Black Americans to the crimes and sins of a select few who are anti-Black, that would be unfair. So why do it to us?
I'm not saying it don't exist. What I'm saying is FBA people will make you think that Akata is some type of like deeply rooted anti-Black slur that they grew up singing Negro spirituals about. ADOS and FBA people think Nigerians are the Black Targaryens. Or what were the actual Black Targaryens? They were the Valerians? That's who ADOS actually think Nigerians are. Real talk, they talk about Nigerians like they're supervillains. It's hilarious. They talk about being called Akata as if African booty scratch wasn't a comeback. So Juicy made a very good video about this now 4 years ago, right? And Juicy's I love Juicy's analysis. Juicy's very balanced, but very principled. I'm gonna just put this in the description or whatever. If you want to talk about that there is reason to critique some Black immigrants, especially in the media space, on their anti-Blackness, you can do that. That is a real thing. There is a propensity for behavior to come from Black immigrant populations. Like Julesy so perfectly looks the part of like the 92% and talks that game that the black liberals be getting so close to her, and as soon as Julesy lets that little communist flag fly just a little, but they be pearl clutching when Julesy gives them some materialist analysis and calls out the. Oh, I love Julesy for that. Oh, there's critiques to make about black immigrant populations and specifically their relationship with the media and how they're amplified in media. There's definitely a conversation about that. There's a conversation to have about anti-blackness from those populations because there is a propensity for anti-blackness. Because first off, anti-blackness, as I said in another video, everybody's got anti-blackness in them. Every single last one of us. Now, you're either actively negotiating and fighting against it internally, you're actively resisting anti-black tendencies, or you just actively are in the, or you act like you don't, but you do. That's just the reality of the situation. Nobody is immune to conditioning of the media and how we're meant to look and think of blackness, regardless of if that blackness is American born or internationally born. And so what happens, I talked about this with Foreign Man years ago as well, is that when you are a black, but you're not from America, it's easy to just assume that black Americans are just out our minds. My parents are Jamaican. They grew me and my siblings up with the whole black Americans are ghetto. They don't have a culture like us. Thankfully, me and most Americanized siblings have been able to change their mind. Yeah, because that's what's taught outside of America. America exports an image of black Americans to be this deranged, uncivilized, barbaric thing to incentivize the idea that we are deserving of our treatment and condition here. They have to present us like this to the world, or else the world will be looking at what they're doing to us like, how is this something y'all are doing? Why is this supposed to be cool? People fall in line with that. And it takes a generation to be here to realize, oh, wait, no. Foreign Man's talked about this before. He was like, yo, when I came from the Bahamas to Iowa of all places, I had a particular belief and disposition toward black Americans that something was wrong with y'all. And after spending a little bit of time in this space and how I was regarded, it started to make sense. But not everybody has that. The crux of how this Diaspora Wars 8-0 started is a response to what is ultimately a white supremacist tactic to pit foreign-born black people against domestically born black Americans. That's where 8-0 comes from.
Things went from a conversation to a war. It went from, can we have the discourse? Can we talk about these things? Because these things are actual meaningful conversation. And then it transitioned to a war. Now, bro, neither side is really trying to have a talk. Because both sides really have a great argument for why, man, I ain't trying to talk to these folks, man. Like, for example, bro, I used to really like this YouTuber, bro. I used to really, really, really like this YouTuber, man. But to this day, I'll never speak to him again. I'll never have anything positive to say about him again, right? Like, but we have nothing to discuss. Like, this YouTuber is a despicable, nasty human being. You feel me? And I came to this conclusion because this YouTuber did a video where he was discussing and telling his audience that they need to boycott all African businesses. And I'm like, hold on, bro. Now, if you have a bad experience at a few African businesses or at a few African braiding shops, I think it was boycott all African braiding shops. If you have a bad experience at one African business, do you even think is logical, is morally intact to say one African business did something bad, let's boycott all African businesses? Let's what? Like, make sure they go out of business? Let's tear down and attack the livelihoods of mom and pop shops who's just trying to operate? Like, that's okay to y'all? Like, when I seen it, I was so confused. I'm like, why would anybody push for this? Why would anybody ask for their audience or push for a blanket boycott of all African businesses because somebody had a bad experience at one African business? I've never seen, hey, this white business owner disrespected black people, let's boycott all white businesses. That doesn't happen. So when I seen content creators and YouTubers and people who I actually like, one dude I actually like, who was pushing to boycott all African businesses, I'm like, hold on, this is just Now this is hate. Now, this right here is the purest form of xenophobia and racism. And that's when I said, okay, it's gone too far, bro. We can have our disagreements. We could talk about, the best way for us to move forward, man. But to logically come to a conclusion that you are morally inapt when an African business did something to one person, and now you're saying all African businesses needs to be out of business. Boycott them all. Mom and pop shops who have no idea what the internet is. They're just running their business in real life, who've been in a community for years. Boycott them, bankrupt them, take away their income. It just doesn't make sense. And I just felt like, to me, that was the last straw for me where I couldn't get along with that, bro. I just couldn't, that just, that made me feel really nasty inside, bro.
And they use internet troll tendencies to kind of drive that up. ADOS is very manosphere adjacent. What do the groupers call themselves? Operators? They have people, their whole job is to just constantly churn memes and content. All black people will be as black as they possibly can when it's beneficial to them. And then as soon as they have an opportunity to distance themselves from that, they do. It's just easier for foreign-born black people. That is something that happens with some black immigrants. But here's the key thing I want you to think about, and I'm about to play this to get to it. How is that even possible? And that's the thing that will always frustrate me about even the most good-natured, civilized, sensible ADOS figures, is that the question around their entire ethos never gets back to, why is our condition in this country the way it is for there to be an incentive to side against us with our oppressors? And why is that never a part of the praxis and conversation with these types of individuals?
Tariq Nasheed has told me personally he has no problems with immigrants, that he has immigrant friends, that he's not racist or xenophobic or none of that. So I don't know, man. Y'all let me know in the comment section. What do you guys think about this, man? I do believe that a better use of our time will be figuring out how to unite against our oppressor, opposed to figuring out how to tear down each other, right? But let me know in the comment section, what do you guys think about this? And if you're still watching this video, click on this video right here to find out how Brick Baby is absolutely cooked after this really, really bad day in court today. I'm going to see you guys in this Brick Baby video. If you want to support, please send me a hype. Hypes are the best way to push my videos. I really support it. Please, please, please send me a hype. I'm going to see you guys in this Brick Baby video somewhere on my screen. I'm out of here, folks. Peace.